All right, let's get into it. Taking a business international isn't just some giant leap of faith. It's more like a journey, a calculated climb up a ladder where every single step means a bigger commitment, but also a bigger potential reward. Today, we're going to break down that whole journey and we'll use one of the most incredible global success stories of our time to do it. Just let that number sink in for a second. $22 billion. dollars. Wow. Marvel didn't just sell some movies. They built a global cinematic empire, a whole universe that fans in, well, pretty much every country on Earth connect with. It's the kind of mind-blowing success most companies can only dream. But here's the crazy part. Back in 1996, Marvel declared bankruptcy. I mean, they were at rock bottom. So how on earth did they go from total collapse to total world domination? Well, the answer is all in the strategic choices they made to go international by climbing that ladder of commitment one careful rung at a time. And that's the story we're going to unpack today. So before we see exactly how Marvel made that climb, let's look at the basic map that pretty much every company needs when they decide to go global. What are the core choices you even have to make? Okay, here's our key term for the day, entry mode. It sounds super academic, right? But it's actually simple. It's all about the how. How do you physically get your stuff, whether it's a product, an idea, a whole brand, into a new country? Every single choice comes with different levels of risk, cost, and, crucially, control. And a great way to think about these choices is as a ladder of commitment. Right at the bottom, you've got your low-risk, low-commitment options, like exporting, kind of testing the waters. In the middle, you'll find things like contractual partnerships, joining forces. And at the very top, the highest commitment of all, direct investment. Basically planting your flag. This ladder, that's our roadmap. Let's start on that very first rung. Exporting. For a company that started out with physical products like Marvel's comic books, this is almost always the first step on a global journey. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You're selling what you make at home to customers in another country. So why even do it? Well, imagine you're Marvel back in the day. First off, your home market might be getting a little crowded. Exporting opens up a whole new world of potential fans. Second, it's a great way to diversify. If comic sales dip in the US, hey, maybe they're booming somewhere else. And maybe most importantly, it's a fantastic low-risk way to learn the ropes of international business without betting the entire farm. Right away, you face a big choice. You can go direct, handling everything yourself, which gives you more control, but it's a ton of work. Or you can go indirect and use a middleman. It's way easier, but you give up some say in how your product gets sold. It's that classic trade-off, right? More control means more work. And believe me, this process can get complicated fast. Just getting a container of goods from point A to point B involves customs, tariffs, shipping, insurance. It's a huge headache. That's why a lot of companies, especially when they're just starting out, hire specialists like freight forwarders to just handle it all for them. Okay, so you've found a buyer, you've shipped your product. Awesome. But this brings us to what is, for a lot of exporters, one of the most nerve-wracking parts of this entire process. I mean, think about it. Your customer is in a totally different country, with different banks, different rules. How do you guarantee that money is actually going to show up in your account? The risk is real for both sides. The exporter is worried about not getting paid, and the importer is worried about paying and then never getting the goods. This chart lays it all out perfectly. You've basically got four main ways to handle payment, and each one shifts the risk. If you demand advance payment, you, the exporter, have almost no risk, but the buyer has all of it. Now, on the other end is an open account, where you ship the goods and just send an invoice. Now you have all the risk. And then in between, you've got these options like a letter of credit, where banks basically act as trusted go-betweens to protect both of you. All right, let's climb up to that middle rung of our ladder. Sometimes what you're selling isn't a physical thing at all, but an idea, a brand, or a patent. And that's where you turn to contractual partnerships. And this brings us to licensing. And this is exactly what a nearly bankrupt Marvel did to survive. Licensing is essentially renting out your intellectual property. You're giving another company the right to use your brand, your characters, or your tech. And in exchange, you get a fee usually called a royalty. This was Marvel's lifesaver, no doubt, but it was also a very tough lesson. They licensed out the movie rights for their biggest characters, like Spider-Man, to other studios. Those studios went on to make blockbuster films and earned billions. And Marvel, they got a pretty small licensing fee in comparison. It was a low-risk way to get cash, sure, but they gave away a massive piece of the pie. Now, a step up from licensing is franchising. This is a much deeper relationship. The franchisor doesn't just hand over a brand name and say, good luck. No, they provide a whole business system, training, marketing support, really strict quality guidelines. This gives them way more control than a simple licensing deal. And you see this everywhere. Think of a brand like Gong Cha. Whether you're in Taipei or New York, you know exactly what you're going to get. That consistency, that's the magic of franchising. It allows for crazy fast global expansion while still keeping a tight grip on the brand experience. Okay, now we climb to the final rung of the ladder. This is the highest level of commitment you can make. This is where a company decides to stop partnering and start owning. It's about making a major direct investment in a foreign country. After watching other studios make billions from their characters, Marvel decided it was time to bet on themselves. They took out a massive $525 million loan, using the rights to all the remaining characters as collateral, all to build their own movie studio. This was their all-in moment. This is the top of the mountain for entry modes, the wholly owned subsidiary. You build or buy a facility in another country and you own it 100%. This gives you absolute control over your brand, your tech, your profits. But with that maximum control comes maximum risk. If it fails, it's all on you. And for Marvel, the bet paid off. Big time. After the smash success of Iron Man, Disney saw the incredible potential. They bought Marvel for over $4 billion, turning it into a wholly owned subsidiary of the Disney empire. This gave Disney total control to build the interconnected Marvel Cinematic Universe we know today, and it completed Marvel's journey all the way to the top of that ladder. So after climbing this ladder all the way from near bankruptcy to global phenomenon, what's the key takeaway here for any business looking to expand? It all comes down to this single, powerful trade-off. The less you commit in terms of money and resources, the less risk you're taking on. But you also limit your control and your potential reward. The more you invest, the higher you climb that ladder, the more control and potential profit you have, but you're also taking a much, much bigger gamble. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future. Marvel is now selling things like digital collectibles, NFTs, directly to a global audience. As technology makes it easier to reach anyone, anywhere, instantly, how does that change this ladder of commitment? Does a direct-to-consumer digital business create a whole new rung? Or does it maybe make some of the old ones obsolete? That's something to think about.